Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another rainy night in Georgia. I'll call this meeting of the Villa Rica Public Facilities Authority to order at 6 p.m. on February the 12th, 2019. First order of business is the adoption of the agenda. Do I hear a motion we approve?
So move.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? It is approved. Item B, appointments. And on this, I'm told that the chairman is the mayor. We will hold off on, these are just the positions. Let me rephrase that. These are positions that will be for the Public Facilities Authority for the year 2019. And we will hold off on making the appointments as far as the person is concerned until after we elect the mayor pro tem in the regular meeting.
I need to make a motion on this one, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion that we name the mayor for the chairman, mayor pro tem for the vice chairman, and the city clerk to be the secretary for the PFA for 2018.
Which is consistent with last year.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? And item C, Public Facilities Authority fiscal year change. And we have a resolution that we have to approve on that. Have you all had a chance to look at the resolution? It's in your packet.
Yep.
Mayor, I think the reason for this is just to bring the Public Facilities Authority into being the same fiscal year as the city, so for the audit purposes.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution to change fiscal year.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor? It is approved. Do I hear a motion that we adjourn?
So move.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? Okay, y'all can leave.
That was easy enough.
Meeting one. Wow, that's a record. Okay, I will call the meeting of Mayor and City Council to order this February the 12th, 2019. It is 6:02 p.m. And we will lead off with our invocation by Council Member Shirley Marchman, followed by a Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and remove your caps.
Gracious Father, we come to say thank you. We thank you that we were born in the land of the living and in the United States of America where we have freedom of choice. We thank you for all that you've done for us, and we ask that what we do tonight, that it would be beneficial to our city, not just one area, but for the entire city. Help us to make right decisions and do things that is pleasing to you as well as to our community. We ask that you would be with us and this meeting be to your satisfaction. This I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, our first order of business is a ceremonial presentation by Mr. Doug Stevens. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Stevenson is not here yet, I don't believe. And so with council's permission, we will just put that off and see if he shows up, and then if he does, we'll do that later in the meeting. Is that okay with everybody?
Sure.
All right, then we will move to adoption of the agenda.
Make a motion we adopt the agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. To approve the agenda. All in favor? Okay, it is unanimous. We have now reached the public comment portion of the meeting. Anyone wishing to give public comment, please do so at this time. Please state your name and address for the record, and please limit your remarks to 3 minutes.
Mayor and City Council members, I'm Michael Young, 9634 Coastal Point Drive, Villa Rica. When we get to the part on community development, Part B, Section 4, Waste Industries 3-year agreement, could some discussion about the amount of the change from previous contract be included in that, and how that, if that has any negative impact on our rates that we've proposed for waste pickup in the last changes we made to those utility rates be also discussed. In the packet, it said $12.23 a month, but I couldn't find anywhere, well, what is it now and what impact that might have on the rate increases we just had. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Kathy Staley, 9619 Sunrise Circle in Mirror Lake. I just want to thank you, Mayor Reese and Councilman Gil McDougall, for talking with me this morning at the Pine Mountain Farm Animal Exhibit. It was encouraging to hear Mayor Reese say that improvements will be made there and that a petting zoo could be incorporated into the future upgrading plans. I voiced concerns regarding the city's decision to have the donkey, who has been there for the past 8 years, removed. For the past year, I fed and watered on a daily basis, including Saturdays and Sundays, every animal at the Pine Mountain Gold Mine Museum's farm animal exhibit. The museum and farm animal exhibits are Villarica's main tourist attractions. Hundreds of families, especially kids, have enjoyed the farm animals for years. We hope the city will replace any animals who are slated to leave. It is my understanding that any additional animals bought will be owned by the city. I hope the land where the cow and donkey are now kept will soon be made level again in appropriate areas, and that their droppings will also be removed, and that the windmill's extremely noisy bearings be oiled or replaced. It is annoyingly loud on many windy days. Wesley Berninger, the manager at the Gold Mine Museum, said he did not think that the windmill had been oiled in 10 years. The noise emanates throughout the entire area. It is also my hope that veterinary care will be given to the hogs whose eyes are infected and crusted shut. This concern I've made to management before on a few occasions. To me and others, the cow seems to be underfed also. A former Georgia Farm Bureau person brought this to my attention. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public comments portion of the meeting, and we will move on to council updates.
I, for one.
I have one.
Yeah, I do
Go ahead.
too.
You go first.
I, for one, find it somewhat awkward when we do votes that we have done away with our work session. When we had our work session before a council meeting, we went from that to 2 council meetings a month. We did away with the work session. The work session was invaluable for bringing the other council ideas out into the open. We discussed items, you understood things better. I find that's not the case anymore, the way we're handling it now. And I look forward to going back to the way we had it before, where we can have a work session. That's just my opinion. I welcome yours.
And I'd like to speak to that, maybe others would too, but I share some of your concern, and I've even spoken to another council person, and they can speak for themselves, but, you know, I understand that, Councilman, but the downside to that is I think the upside is that the staff is moving things faster now than they ever have before. And I can come from 14 years of working here by saying that, but I do understand that. And Tom and I spoke after I read your email this morning, and we're aware of that, and we'll all try to come up with a way that we can get the information. I would suggest that probably the best thing to do would be to go by City Hall. I think the council packets are usually uploaded the Thursday prior to that Tuesday. That's usually what I see. And I know on several occasions I've had questions of what was on there and went to Tom, and he's called staff in, and we've answered those. So
You can get City Hall input that way, but you can't get input from the other council members like we were getting during the work session, because they bring up ideas and things that you don't think about, and it gives you pause to think about them and look at it in different ways. So I miss that part of it.
I do think we need to figure out, I mean, like I said, I acknowledge that that's a problem, and another council person has said that. So let's work with Tom and see if we can figure out a way to make that. I hate to do away with the second meeting that we can actually make something happen rather than just discuss it and then wait 2 weeks to get it approved. That's the downside to going back to the way it used to be. So that's just my input. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think that there are some obvious challenges with sort of accommodating. Is it not on? Get a little closer. I'm usually pretty loud, so it don't matter. But one of the things, the 2 weeks, or, you know, the 2 meetings a month, 2 voting meetings a month allows us to do, is to feel more comfortable with tabling an item and not waiting a full month. Before, if we weren't fully, you know, I think in the know about a particular item, we might err on the side of, let's go ahead and get it done, because we don't want to disadvantage the public or disadvantage staff by waiting a full month. So I'd like to find a way to keep us at these 2 meetings, these 2 voting meetings a month, if that's possible.
I agree with the ease with tabling, and it comes back up in 2 weeks. I, like Danny, missed the work sessions. But I was under the impression that at least we're going to try this. We're going to try this. We can move things ahead faster. There's so much going on in the city. We're accomplishing a lot of things, tackling a lot of problems, and that this would allow us to kind of do that during this really heavy time. And that maybe it would level out some after a year. We'll see. You know, sometimes we hope for that and it never happens. And if it did, then maybe we could go back to those work sessions prior to the meetings. I do miss that. I do concur with you that, yeah, when we table something, it doesn't have to be that long. It's a real pain if you have to put somebody off for an entire month.
You know, I would add too, just from the perspective of having gone through a year of those meetings with the work session, it was more often than not that we didn't get additional information or much more clarity between Thursday and Tuesday night anyway. It was rare that I was any more informed come Tuesday night than I had been as of Thursday. So that could be different in the way I work as opposed to the way somebody else works. But that's sort of how I felt about it. I never really felt like I got that much more information.
Well, you know, I don't say you get more information between Thursday and Tuesday. I'm saying during the work session, you get a lot of input from the other council members that you
Your
might
point
not
is well
think
taken.
about. You get other
That piece-
viewpoints.
that piece is
Those are valuable viewpoints, and it opens your eyes to something. I didn't look at it that way. Maybe I should look at it your way, you know? You got a point. So I miss that part of it.
Agreed. Ms. Shirley?
I like the 2 meetings. I don't see what we accomplish anymore with the work session than what we do it now. That's just my opinion. So let's try it and see how it's gonna work out, and then make a decision.
So Tom, we'll work on that, and council, please give Tom your input, and we want these to be as productive as we can as meetings, so, you know, points well taken on by all. Okay, any other council updates?
I do. I have one, but if you don't mind, I need to step down briefly. Thank you. So I want to recognize Ms. Jeffries. Nancy, would you mind coming up for a second? You know, some people, when they see something around the city or whatever, or they drive by, they see it, and they think, somebody ought to do something about that. And then there's people who think, maybe I can be a part of doing something about that, whether it's helping and volunteering with the animals and things like that. And she noticed how unkept and it got overgrown at our old cemetery that's on Punkintown and Dallas Highway. And it goes back a long years. I've seen when they've had from the Civil War and maybe prior, I'm not sure. But she took it upon herself to talk to some people, get permission to go over there and work on the site, not by herself, but also with her 2 teenagers. Aren't they both teenagers? And I wanted to write down their names because I did not want to forget Faith and TJ. Because as teenagers, you can think of I wish they could have been here, you can think of a lot of other more fun things to do maybe than clean up a cemetery. So just quickly, I wanted to introduce you, say thank you to you for doing that. Please tell the kids thank you. Again, they uncovered tombstones that were buried there and under briars and bush. And we'll see how it goes from here. I noticed a big difference when I went by. And I just appreciate you doing that. And I think it's an inspiration to other people that, you know what, we can do something too. We don't always have to wait on someone else or wait on government to fix it up. And I hope that'll be an inspiration to other people, whether it's volunteering to help with a board or something like this. So thank you.
Very fitting. Thank you, Councilman. Anybody else? Okay, moving along to tab A, governing body. First order of business is approval of minutes from the January the 8th, 2019 meeting. Hopefully
I'll make a
everybody's-
motion to approve the minutes for January the 8th, 2018.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes for January 8th, 2019 meeting. All in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. Item number 2, election of the 2019 Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Mayor, I was approached to ask to do that, to take that position, but I would, suggest that we let, Mr. McDougal have it for this year. And I guess I can work with him for.
Can I veto that?
That doesn't sound very encouraging.
David, do I have veto power on this? Okay, I have a motion. Anybody else interested in Mayor Pro Tem for 2019? I haven't missed a day since I've been elected mayor, so it's not like it's a position.
You make it no fun for the mayor pro tem. They don't get to do anything.
I'll make a motion, we approve the Mayor Pro Tem as Councilman McDougal by acclamation.
Well, we have a motion, so you're seconding the motion?
Yes.
Okay, have a motion to second. All in favor?
Reluctant.
You vote. All opposed? Now,
Shame.
congratulations, sir.
I thought I heard my sister laughing back there.
She knows.
It is, it's an honor to sit up here and know that any one of y'all could be the Mayor Pro Tem and I could be out and I would feel comfortable with the city. So it certainly makes me feel good. So moving right along. Item number 3, mayoral standing committees. I haven't spoken to all of you, so I'm going to read through the list and make sure that you still want to serve on the committees. And for those in the audience, these are the standing committees that the mayor appoints every year to be over the different committees that are over the different departments that have oversight on those departments. So the Recreation Advisory Commission is Councilmember Shirley Marchman, Danny Carter, and Leslie McPherson. Do y'all still desire to be on those committees? That committee?
Yes.
Rec?
Okay. I'm gonna let you ride. Okay. Housing Authority, Gil McDougal, Shirley Marchman, and Leslie McPherson.
Yeah.
Okay. Library Commission, Gil McDougal, Leslie McPherson, and Shirley Marchman.
I don't mind, but I also wouldn't mind switching to public safety. I've never been on public safety, so I'll just throw that out there. But either way, wherever you want to put me, I'll be good.
Okay. I think I'd like you to stay on that. I think you do a good job.
Want me to stay on
You're very
library?
responsive.
Okay.
Public Safety was a committee that former Councilmember Best was on, and I would like to add Councilmember Gil McDougal, and I've already spoken to him about that, and then Shirley Marchman and Danny Carter.
Yes.
Okay. Finance Audit Committee, Danny Carter, Gil McDougal, and I would ask that we leave the other position that was filled by former Councilmember Verlin Best unfilled until after the election in March. So that would be my recommendation. David, do we need a motion on those, or
No.
is this an appointment?
Your appointment,
Yep.
so it's really not a vote on that.
Okay. All righty. Thank you all for serving.
Will we get a copy of it? Do you see? All right, thank you.
Thank you all for your willingness to serve on these committees. Item number 4, mayor appointment of Cheryl DeFore Bryce as a member of the Cemetery Commission. I don't have, okay, so this is just an appointment. All right, item number 5, discussion of animal control ordinance, and this will be handled by Councilmember McPherson.
There's some proposed changes to the county animal control ordinance, and how it relates to us is that the county takes care of animal control, and I should specify Carroll County. 60% of our population's in Carroll County. This concerns the Carroll County side. Sorry about that. 40% of our population, for now, is in Douglas County, growing like crazy. So They handle animal control for all the cities in Carroll County at the county level. And the proposed changes have come for various reasons. Some of it's at the urging of some local citizens, including myself, some from the Humane Society, and there's also at least a few county commissioners who feel like there are some needed updates to the animal control ordinance. We will be getting asked for input. Each one of the cities will be asked for input into it. So what I've given you tonight, actually Elisa gave you a copy, so you haven't had time to look at it. Just take this, look over it. You know, if you have questions, obviously you can talk to me, you can talk to anybody at the county. I would just note that some of the more significant wording right now, this is concerning domestic pets. It does have something about feral cats, but specifically adding in things like extreme weather conditions, animals that are left out in freezing temperatures, and vice versa. If they're tethered and their doghouse is where it's 90 to 100 degrees and there's no way to get to shade because of they're restrained. So there's some things added in, so you can take note of that. Also, there's been a little wording requested by the Humane Society, which at this point is in this proposal, that dogs being tethered have to be on a swivel-type device, not a stationary object. The main reason for this is so they don't get all looped around and tangled, so they don't hang themselves off the steps of a porch, and it just allows that movement without them getting all wrapped around. And I have also requested them to consider not allowing 24/7 tethering. That's where, and it concerns dogs, we don't see many cats in this situation. That's where a dog is chained or tethered 24/7. And, but anyway, just know that this is coming down the pike. The county will be eventually voting on it. They will be getting input from each city in Carroll County, and we will be asked for input on it because they handle our animal control. So if you want to say anything about it or ask anything about it, I believe how it's going to be sent to us is when the commission chairman has his meeting with the mayors and city managers, that they will send back either this wording or something similar, and at that time ask for our input.
And I would like to acknowledge that we have our new District 2 Commissioner, Clint Chance, in the room. So anything that you want to add to that, Mr. Chance, please come forward and add to that. Any discussion that the council has, certainly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. Essentially, everything that Councilwoman McPherson has stated is correct. I spoke with Chairman Smith earlier today. I know I had gone through and had some language changes that I wanted to look at. For instance, there was something in there that only allowed certain months for an animal control officer to take action if there was an extreme weather condition, for instance, locked in an automobile. And so we tweak some of that language that if there happened to be a situation in the month of April and April wasn't listed in the original ordinance, that the officer would not be, restricted from trying to intervene and save the animal. So there was just a lot of language cleanup in there. So I know that coming up at the mayor's meeting, that is something that the chairman is going to want you to have input into. It's my understanding, and Mr. Mecklin may want to speak to this, I think each individual municipality will probably pass your own ordinance that we'll look at, but we want that to be cohesive if we can countywide. Now, if there's something specific in the language that maybe Villa Rica is the only municipality that would have a certain circumstance that you would want to have in your own, then that's something that we can look, to having input in that. But we want to try to have an umbrella policy in place so an officer's not going to Temple and has to remember exactly what the ordinance is if he goes then back to Villa Rica. So I think it makes sense that we have a broad consensus, amongst the municipalities and in the county as a whole.
Yeah, I think one important, I believe this is in the agreement, that it allows the county code enforcement officers to make out their cases so that they are returnable to the magistrate court. And that's to prevent the animal control officers from having to go to court in every different city. They can just make all their cases for one court date at the county court and prosecute them under the same ordinance, no matter where in the county it's happening.
Makes sense. And I would just encourage anyone that's out here in the audience or watching us by TV, that if I have had several calls on this. If you have an opinion on it, that, please get with your council person or myself or Commissioner Chance. So,
Thank you.
any other comments?
Let me just ask for clarification, and maybe you, Clint, I don't know. Because Leslie didn't mention it, but I had heard before that we were going to vote on these ordinances as a municipality, and then you just said that. So is this what we would be voting on, or are we sort of tasked with sitting down and looking at which parts of this we'd like to modify or maybe keep it all together and then vote that way?
I think the process is you look at it now and see if there's anything in there that you either dislike or think should be added, and then the county is going to accumulate comments from everybody to come up with a final draft of the countywide ordinance that then all of us will come back and adopt that countywide ordinance as our ordinance. So I think it's really a two-step process. Make your comments now, they'll come up with a final draft, and it'll come back to us then to approve it or not.
So with that in mind, David, would it be better, not hear me? Would it be better then for us to get all our comments to you and you put them into some place where we can all talk about them?
I'd be happy to receive them.
I just want to make sure everybody's, comments are heard, however that is going to
Send
happen.
them to me or to Lisa. I mean, we can just compile them all in one place and ship them on to whoever the decision maker in the county is.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was kind of waiting for that because the county had not been real clear on exactly how that feedback was going to be given.
I appreciate the opportunity for the city to be involved in this ordinance, but if it's going to be enforced by the county and it's going to be countywide, there are a number of municipalities. How long is it going to take for all the municipalities? Bowden is going to feel a little bit differently than Mountain Zion or maybe Villa Rica. And I mean, would it
Well,
not
I
have
can-
been?
I can answer to some of that, Councilmember McDougal. The process has really already began. A lot of the cities have already had some input. Now, Chairman Smith has taken the lead on this, so I'm not here to tell you from A to Z everything that has happened, but I know a little over a year ago, Council Member McPherson, we had something where the chairman and some different concerned citizens, Humane Society, all came together. When this all came about a year ago over at the library and had some discussions, it's my understanding from that point on, the chairman did have some conversations with different members in some of the different cities. I know that our legal counsel representatives have put some things together based off some initial comments, based off some initial concerns from the Humane Society, and tried to put together a document that you have this evening. I think what the chairman's looking to do is, now that kind of the general comments or consensus have been put together, now we're bringing you back a real workable document to say, hey, this is kind of some chatter that's been put into this original document, and then from this point, if there's some additional clarifications or things that you want to add or subtract or whatever, we'll look at it from that standpoint. So this, I think, has unofficially kind of been going on for quite some time. It's just now coming to a head that within the next couple of months, I think we want to have a true document that is enforceable throughout the county.
Okay, so I guess another way to say that is this is a rough draft. It's already sort of been vetted in a number of ways, and if we don't have changes amongst us, then this might be the one that we would adopt to then push on to the county.
That's correct. And you understand what I'm saying as far as Villa Rica may have a real concern that you have something that no other municipality has a need of, and I'm not saying that couldn't be in your specific language that we'd take into consideration, but what we're trying not to do is for an animal control officer to go out and have to know every single city or the county 7 or 8 different things floating through their head about what is real and what hadn't been passed. So trying to have a consensus, we don't think that there's anything that would prevent us from having one solid document to serve both the county and all the municipalities.
I can appreciate that.
Any other comments? Thank you, Clint, for being here. This is great. I've been with the city now since 2001, and it's great having our county commissioner up here so that we have questions like this we can ask, and we're going to do the same thing and go to the county meetings too. So thank you for being here.
Sir, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you.
We used to couldn't do that. I mean, our.
I know, we couldn't do that in the past.
Because our meetings were on the same
Yeah,
night.
that's exactly right. Okay, tab B, community development. Bobby?
Good evening, everybody. We have tab FP-01-19. It's an application for the final plat in Liberty Point Unit 2. Liberty Custom Homes LLC of Douglasville, Georgia requests final plat approval for Liberty Point Unit 2 located at Freeman Circle, Billerica, Georgia. Parcel number 018-0025-0003 in land lot 180, 2nd District in Douglas County. The property consists of about 11.99 plus or minus acres and is located in Ward 4. This is a direct continuation of Liberty Point Phase 1. Currently, Phase 1 of Liberty Point is still under construction, but it's nearing completion. The infrastructure in Phase 2 is already in place and has been inspected. My inspector and I personally inspected all the infrastructure in Phase 2, so I feel pretty confident that everything's good. The plans are to continue development, as I stated, in Phase 2 from Phase 1. All the development regulation requirements have been satisfied except for maintenance bonds and performance bonds for both phases. The developer is here, and he's working on that as we speak. Planning Commission heard this and approved it by unanimous decision on February the 5th, 2019. Staff recommends approval, and the applicant is here.
Any questions of staff? David, we go through the public comments portion of this, or?
On the approval of a final plat, that is not a zoning decision, so you don't really have to have a public hearing. You can if you want to, but it's not required.
Okay. Would like to hear from the applicant if you want to come forward, if, just in case any of my distinguished colleagues have any questions.
Yes, sir. I'm Robbie Robinson, manager of Liberty Custom Homes and the developer of the Unit 2. So, any questions?
I don't have any questions.
I've heard nothing but good things, so
Well,
keep
thank
up the
you.
good work.
Thank
It's
you.
really just a continuation
Yes,
to
ma'am.
finish out what was already
Yep.
planned there, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was quick.
I make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the final plat application from Liberty Custom Homes LLC for Liberty Point Unit 2.
Have a motion and a second. Did you get the second? Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, sir. Item 2.
Mr. Mayor, I have tab ABL-03-19. We have an alcoholic beverage license application for retail packaged malt beverages and wine. The applicant is Pilot Corporation doing business as Pilot Travel Center number 4559. Licensee is Stephanie Nicole Harris, resides at 12 Marie Place, Billerica, Georgia. The location of the business is 95 Liberty Road, land lot 144, 2nd District, Carroll County, Ward 5. Current zoning is general commercial. The applicant has complied with the ordinance with regard to legal notification requirements and has successfully passed the background check conducted by the Billerica Police Department. Also, there are no location restrictions that would hinder the issuance of the license. Staff recommends approval.
Okay. Any questions of staff? Is the applicant present? Please come forward. State your name and address for the record.
Stephanie Nicole Harris and 12 Marie Place, Billerica, Georgia 30180. I got to think about it.
Any questions from council?
Not for me.
David, you're on.
Yeah, Ms. Harris, you are aware of what the drinking age is, obviously, in
Yes,
Georgia, and you understand that the city of Villa Rica strictly enforces any and all ordinances related to sale of alcohol to minors,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
And you understand that the Villa Rica Police Department periodically conducts operations to determine whether or not our stores are in compliance with that by sending in underage people to buy alcohol, and that they will
Yes,
be
sir.
periodically doing that. And you have a process in place to prevent that from happening,
Yes, sir.
and you understand the consequences if it does happen.
Yeah, they're gonna die. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Uh-oh. You know this
No,
is on
we
video,
know.
don't you?
Well, they will be,
they know.
they will be in trouble being
They
cited,
know.
and you won't be selling beer anymore.
Yes, sir.
And
I
let me,
understand.
I always
Same
add, I always add the human element of that, and there is a family here in Villa Rica. We lost a young soul several years ago, purchased alcohol in a neighboring county, and that young person is no longer with us, and so I know that family personally, so I take it very personal. So,
Yes, sir.
in all seriousness, make sure that you know.
When I was
I'm
in
not
high
offended
school,
when you
there
card
was
me.
a lot of underage selling in Villa Rica, and a lot of my friends died as well. And so I stress the seriousness of it
Thank you.
as well.
Thank you.
Any questions from council? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I can go, bro. Do I have to stay for the whole thing?
Wow.
Thank goodness.
I would stay away until the vote, though. We have had, well, you're leaving before the vote? Wow.
You don't want to know?
Oh, you can leave. I mean, that's just scary. I mean,
Just
you
gonna
know.
be a surprise how it ends.
Surprise ending.
Okay, we'll open up the public comments portion of the meeting. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this, please come forward at this time. Okay, seeing none, I will revert back to the council for decision.
Make a motion that we approve the alcoholic beverage application for Pilot Travel Center, number 4559, located at 95 Liberty Road, Villa Rica.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed?
Okay,
Thank you,
good.
ma'am. Now you may leave, but you don't have to. Item number 3.
Mr. Mayor, we have a vacancy on our Historic Preservation Commission. Kim Poor has served on the commission since 2016, and she has requested to be reappointed. She is out of town tonight, but staff recommends that Ms. Poor be reappointed to the Historic Preservation Commission for the term ending January 31st, 2022.
And I'll just say a good word from Ms. Poor. She is a hard-working volunteer, and we have many of those, many of them in this room right now. And we thank you for all that you do, so.
All right, I'll make a motion to reappoint Kim Poor to the Historic Preservation Commission for a 3-year term, beginning, or ending January 31st, 2022.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous. Item number 4.
Mr. Mayor, we saved the best for last. We issued Waste Industries a letter in December, given the required 90-day notice of intent to cancel the contract, to rebid it. At that time, we issued a request for proposals, was advertised for 32 days. Believe it or not, no one else responded other than Waste Industries. We, as part of the RFP, we scheduled a mandatory pre-bid meeting, and they were the only game in town. So what we ended up doing, rather than taking it to the actual bid opening, we closed that RFP down based on that and went back with Waste Industries to just see what we could negotiate from what we were currently paying. They agreed to a new 3-year agreement for $12.23 per month per cart, effective April 1, 2019. I think we're paying about $11.89 right now. And what they did, they didn't alter their structure. They in their current agreement, they have a consumer price index 3%. So what they ended up doing is going ahead and adding the 3% now to 12/23 to be effective April 1st, 2019. And it's a good deal.
Well, and to one of our citizens' comments, how is this going to affect the rate for 2019? Or 2020, for that matter?
Shouldn't, I wouldn't think it would affect it, Sarah. Budget-wise, we've already included that amount.
And you did not take a look at the bid just to see if they had bid cheaper, huh?
Wasn't feeling very lucky.
Oh,
Sorry, Sarah. Go ahead.
Well, we budgeted for an estimated CPIU increase, which is effectively what this is.
So that's a 34-cent increase. Is that what you anticipate it to be in 2020 as well as the rest of 2019? Is that what you're saying?
No, it'll be another CPIU every year.
Okay.
So that's what we anticipated for this coming budget, and that's.
So this increase is based on the CPI. That's 34 cents for 2019. And I believe that question was what it was, which was $11.89. That's a 34-cent increase. And then the additional increases in each of the successive 3 years will also be based on CPI at that time.
Which is roughly 3%, sometimes more, sometimes less. In our current year, or in 2018, excuse me, it was 2.9%.
Which is roughly 3%. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, I read over our agreement or contract. I didn't have anything to compare it to, so I wasn't sure what we had before. But my packet said that we had entered into negotiations with them, and I just want to know if we got anything. I mean, I noticed in the contract it said something about free of charge or whatever, they pick up at the various city facilities and everything. I didn't know, was that part of the former contract also?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just wondering if we got anything extra.
We didn't get anything extra, I don't think, no. We got what we had, yes.
Pretty much the same. That's what I wanted
I
to
think
know.
when you have no other bidders, it makes it a little harder to get
Doesn't
a
help.
whole
Well,
lot.
You know,
well, they
it's
put in a
like-
bid, though.
When they're holding the cards, it's kind of hard to, you know.
But they didn't know there were other bidders, did they, at the time?
They knew they were the only one.
They were
yes.
they were in the room.
Yeah, they know they're, yeah.
They had a pre-bid meeting. All right, I move that we approve a 3-year agreement with Waste Industries effective April 1, 2019.
And could I add to that,
Yes.
subject to the review by the city attorney? Because I had pointed out to me that there was at least one typo in this, and I see 2 or 3 others that I'd like to just clean up, but they're
I
not
would amend-
substantive.
I would amend that motion, subject to review by the city attorney.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? It is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Tab C, Parks and Recreation. Vicki?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item that's before you is a Library Advisory Board reappointment. This particular application was submitted by Claudia Best. She has been serving on the Library Advisory Board for a number of years, and her term just recently expired at the end of January, and she is seeking to continue to serve. This particular reappointment would be a 3-year appointment with the term to expire on January 31st, 2022.
I would make a motion to reappoint Claudia Best as a member, as board member for the Villa Rica Library Advisory Board with a term to expire on January 31, 2022.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? It is unanimous. Item number 2.
This second item that's before you, this is for our athletic uniforms for the current year. We put the items out to bid. You'll find a copy of the summary of the bids and the unit pricing that's attached. We had 2 bidders that were responsive, and that was Gables Sporting Goods and then BSN out of Woodstock, Georgia. Staff is recommending Gables Sporting Goods Again, attached are the unit prices as well as the bid information that they have included.
Why is it separated into athletic uniforms and then below it's the soccer uniforms?
Just generally, many of the companies, or really most of them that provide just the athletics, which is your baseball, your basketball, they don't actually end up providing the soccer uniforms. That's why they're separate.
Okay.
Who was the provider last year? Was it Gables? I thought it was.
That's correct.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve Gable Sporting Goods as a vendor for the athletic uniforms.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. For discussion, you know, I'll say this, and I know that you did a great job of getting bids, but we need to, for all our bids, I would love to see more than three, at least three, but that's nothing against you.
If I can just add, there were a couple other that just weren't responsive. Like they might have sent in uniforms, they weren't even comparable to what we were asking for. So that's one of the reasons why they're not included.
Okay. I'll have motion second. All in favor? It is unanimous.
The next item are the soccer uniforms for the year. We put this out to bid as well. What you will find attached, there are two bid responses that came back on these items. Staff is recommending Crown Sports out of Decatur, Georgia. What I'll point out is that Score uniforms, they did provide the lowest bid. However, based upon the start of the soccer season, I think I handed you guys the attached information. They're located out of state, and I'm not comfortable with putting in order at this particular time of the month based upon when the games are going to start, which would be that first weekend in March. It's just not adequate time for an out-of-state bid to be.
Good call.
We are very tight on time.
You're too tight. So, you know, I did go through, I checked their references and everything, but they had several recreation departments in Georgia, but all of them said no, that they use them. Like, our orders have been in at the beginning of the month, so.
Are you saying they wouldn't guarantee delivery date?
I don't know that they could, and even based upon me talking to other recreation departments in Georgia that use them, most of the responses was, do not do it if you don't have more than 3 weeks in advance for the uniforms to be here. So.
How much time do we have?
It's just right at about 2 weeks, the very first weekend in March.
Okay.
So my only comment would be maybe next year, we get it to them a little sooner.
Typically, we
And then
would,
maybe
we
we can
just
go
didn't
with that.
have that second meeting in January, which
Okay.
would have made it possible for us to.
See, it's all
That's because a couple of council people disappeared on us. I don't know who they were, but they just wouldn't come on board.
Okay, got it.
I was here.
Didn't have one in
I
December.
thought we weren't going to talk about that.
Let's get kids, uniforms on those kids. It's all about them kids.
Yeah, you
That's
do,
right.
but I got to open it. All right, I'll make a motion to approve Crown Sports as the soccer uniform vendor.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Thank you. And finally, item number 4.
This final item that's before you is the July 3rd, well, it's one of the July 3rd fireworks concert. This group is called Electric Avenue, the 80s Experience. Part of, it's not just bringing this item in front of you, we really wanted to have some comments and get feedback from you guys as it relates to not only the bands, but in particular how we're handling our rain out events. You know, there's been discussion over the last year or so about bringing in some bands that maybe some higher dollar bands, if you will, in terms of the experience that the community are able to enjoy. One of the challenges as we plan for July 3rd, it's always that possibility that there's a rain event the day of July 3rd, and if we have to do a second rain out date, or just even plan for a rain out date, how we handle such item is not just the entertainment that happens to be there, but there's things like the stage, there's things like other things that go along with planning any kind of rain out event. And so I bring all of that up to say, we've had bands that usually when they start to get over a certain price point, if you're going to ask them to potentially hold a second date to reschedule, they want to be compensated for you blocking out a second date. And so we have a particular band that's before us, and the band would be $7,500 for us to book it for the July 3rd event, but they are also asking that if we want them to hold a second date, that they be compensated $5,000 to block out a second date. And so again, it's the conversation of where we want to go as it relates to the entertainment and the dollar value of the entertainment, and specifically how we would handle, if at all, scheduling any rain out date. Because in the event it rains, let me just also add this, we have rain insurance, but when it doesn't rain, you still held the second date that someone could have made available to someone else.
So we wasted 5,000 if it doesn't rain, huh?
Well, in this particular case, but every group that may be coming may be asking for something different. Some may say, hey, I'll negotiate, it down to 2, or, in some instances, they really actually wanted the full amount up front, and they said, you know what, we can bring it down a little bit. So, we've gone through this kind of a couple years ago when we had Velcro Pygmies. We ended up paying again, to reschedule a rained out, what would have been even a partially rained out event. So we want to get a little bit of feedback from you, how you guys feel about, scheduling an event such as July 3rd, because typically we've already contracted out fireworks. And I believe from talking to staff, there's only been 3 rainouts over all the years that have been done. And I think most recently it was 2015, just before I came. So
What benefit do we have from the rain insurance? I mean,
the rain insurance would compensate us, again, if in the event it rains. So typically what happens is we provide the total cost of the event, and it usually comes up to a percentage of the event based upon the duration of the coverage that we're looking for, the amount of rain that is occurring. But this is the scenario where it doesn't rain, but you've held up their schedule from making it available to somebody else.
no, I understand that.
So again, it's what appetite you guys have for any rainouts that occur, because I understand that in one instance you did a makeup date as, I think you might have gone as late as Labor Day when you went to
It wasn't
reschedule
quite
it.
that late, but yeah, it was, and we were criticized for that because we waited so long after that. This is just my opinion, but I'd have a hard time approving $5,000 just in case we needed them for a makeout. What I would rather do, and what we had talked about, and I've seen done in the past, is if most of the people are there for the fireworks. And so, rather than spend $5,000 for a band for a makeup, I would rather just either not have a band or have, a DJ, or have a local band. That'll be a lot cheaper.
I totally agree with that. Why waste $5,000 on this particular band?
We have a lot of talent in this area, a lot of
And
bands that would
all
love to have an
scattered across
opportunity.
Atlanta. There are
We've had pretty
some
good bands almost every year, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
And, this is gonna play into the discussion that's gonna come up next on the mill bands and everything, because it's the same sort of thing. Once you get into the higher end bands, I will just say, I've noticed in the notes, background, both on this and in the one that's to come, it says, in previous discussion, the city council has expressed an interest in wanting to see larger acts. Now, I can only speak for myself. It wasn't so much about larger acts. For me, it was more about, we had talked about having more variety. And to the point of larger acts, there were times where we said something about the entertainment, and they're like, maybe we mentioned some others we've seen, go, well, that's what you get for $1,000, okay? But there's also a big difference between $1,000 and, as we'll see later, this one's $7,500, not including what they want extra for rain out, and a $10,000 one down the way. So I'm not comfortable, I agree with you, I'm not comfortable with having a band that wants that kind of money for a rain date. I think we can get a decent band. Most people come for the fireworks. They're happy to have a decent band up there that can play some music.
Yeah.
But let me restate. I didn't
Yeah.
say I was against the band. That's not what I said.
No.
I'm against the idea of paying the band $5,000 for
$5,000,
makeup
yeah.
day.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with that. I
Yeah.
support contracting with this band, and I just would, and Leslie and I talked about this separately, but my interpretation of that about the bands was not that we wanted to pay more, that we wanted to necessarily have bigger bands. We wanted, for me, and she spoke for her, I'll speak for me, we wanted bands that would bring out larger aspects of our community. I mean, larger numbers of the community. If the taxpayers paying for this, I want as many of them as possible to be able to come out and enjoy it. I am not in favor of paying the $5,000 rain out. I am in favor of having the band, and if we have to do a makeup, it'll be largely something that we plan last minute, I guess, and the fireworks.
And I just want to put a plug in, whoever picked this group, this is a really, really good group, so.
I haven't seen them live, but I did get a video clip. I thought if they cost this much, I want to get a look at them. So,
And I want to know what you're going to do to top the fireworks this past year. So those were the best, and that's coming from the guy that did the fireworks here for years. They were really, really, really good.
Yeah, where are we at on that?
That bid doesn't close until Friday. I'm gonna try my best. The agenda closes at the
Okay.
same time.
So are
I'm
you
looking
going to
forward to seeing
top
that.
that? Are you going to top, Lex?
We will certainly have all the conversation in the world with.
It really was a.
It was
good
great.
show.
It was absolutely
Uh,
great.
Tom has
Okay.
So we will do, I'm sorry.
So I understand sort of the sentiment about the rain out payment. How about the rain out insurance?
I still am, I'm not sure what we get out of it.
How much do we pay?
what it costs and what it covers. I don't.
What is the cost on the rain out
Somebody's
insurance?
got-
It's a percentage of the total cost of the event. So what I typically take into consideration would be like the fireworks and everyone that we have in some way, every expense that we pay out. So fireworks, the bands, stages, the mobile stage, all of that into consideration.
But what is, those are the things, but what does it pay that those folks didn't show up and we have to pay them? That's what the insurance pays?
Absolutely.
And what's the cost?
So it's generally a percentage. So it was about $5,000 for the total fireworks,
So it's about 10%?
about 10%.
So we pay.
And it pays us 50 grand?
Yes, it does a complete payout, and just so that everyone understands, I called around to some of the other jurisdictions that put on large festivals to get an understanding of, what their experience has been, if things have been paid out, and I want to say it's been 2 years now, like a city of Vidalia, I think they do the Vidalia Onion Festival, is that where that happens? I remember calling them, and so basically, like, this is our biggest festival, and they said they certainly had a year where they experienced rain and it interfered with, all the money that they had put out for their event. And so, they were paid on that particular event. They didn't have any problems. Just so everyone understands, what I do is I work through GERMA. I reached out to GERMA. GERMA put me in contact with the, basically, you go with market rate, and I can't think of the name of it, but they pointed me to the representative of the company that they use for.
So if it rains on July 3rd, we get 10% of whatever the amount is.
It takes
No.
no.
See,
It
Pay.
You're suggesting
pay
that we
them
pay a
10%.
$5,000 premium to possibly benefit a $50,000. However, we're already talking about rescheduling the
Right.
fireworks.
That's what I was
I
headed
can't. I
for
just
that.
cannot imagine that ultimately is worth it.
So, well, let me just say,
That's
that
what I was
information
headed
is helpful for me because if you take into consideration, we did Velcro Pygmies, that we had actually performed the entire concert. There was only 15 minutes that did not go through. And based on the feedback, the question was, not really the question, it was go ahead and reschedule them. So, and a lot of that conversation that came out of that specifically was getting the rain insurance. So we paid basically $4,500 was the conversation that we had here. For what we missed was the last 15 minutes of the concert at the mill.
But you're saying we've only had, what, 3 rainouts over?
That, and when I
What
talked to
Courtney
staff, they
said.
said, yeah.
3 in
over-
18 years or something?
Yeah.
So we're paying $5,000 worth of insurance for a $50,000 policy. That seems quite high to me.
And I mean, same thing with when we did the smaller, it was still about 10% of what we paid for everything in terms of the band, in terms of the sound and lighting, and all of those things.
So if we have a $50,000 event and we have a rain out, how much of that 50 grand do you pay even though we get no use from it?
I'm sorry, restate that.
If you have a $50,000 event planned and you get it rained out, how much of that 50 grand does Sarah write checks for?
Well, if I'm,
Because I'm thinking it's all of it.
it is.
Right.
You've already contracted for everything on the front end, so you've already contracted for the fireworks.
And the concert and the
And
stage
yeah,
and the porta
you pay for all
johns
of this
and
on the
the,
front
and the
end. Yeah.
bouncy stuff.
Does that $50,000
Well-
not include what it costs the city in terms of staff and having those folks out there? So that is an additional
Well,
cost.
we would save that cost if it got rained out, 'cause
Right.
we wouldn't have to have that part.
So
But
is it
that's
not part of the
in-
50,000?
No.
I did not calculate the staff cost into the 50,000, no.
Okay, on the fireworks, if we got rained out and we knew it was not going to have it on the 3rd and we got to reschedule it, we still have to pay them double? I mean, we don't have to pay them
No,
again.
no, no, they don't typically ask for double, and every one is different. So for example, in this particular instance, they just happen to be asking for 5. If it was someone else, they may have asked for less. And I don't have it in front of me because it's on the street, but even with the fireworks, it's a smaller amount. Same thing, if you have contracted for the stage, they don't always ask, for the full amount, but there is an amount if you're blocking out another day for someone to be there.
So
So
they
the
ask-
stage, the lighting, you are paying for that, an additional cost for that. And I just don't have it in front of me because I wasn't.
So the fireworks never got set up and they had to reschedule and do it another day? They want some extra money
Right.
just to move it to another day?
If we shot off fireworks on December 31st, there'll never be another rain out of fireworks.
Right, and this is just because this is your big event. So we've done fireworks in the rain. It rained probably the first 2 December 31st that I was here. So we kind of stood out in the rain, and quite honestly, the technician, he always says we can go rain or with or without rain.
How much were the fireworks last year?
23,000.
So of the 50,000, 23,000 is the fireworks. I don't think that, I think that we just self-insure rather than pay the $5,000 for the insurance.
Especially since it's only happened 3 times, so it's kind of like the health
So
insurance.
I think the sentiment is that we don't pay the $5,000 rain out date for the band, nor do we pay $5,000 for the insurance. That's where I
So
would be.
Who do we put in charge of weather this year?
Of what?
Councilmember Marchman?
I agree with you, but who is it we're putting in charge of weather this year? Because this becomes more expensive now when we self-insure.
You're in charge of praying for good weather on July 3rd.
Hey, it works with health insurance.
So that,
It's like car insurance, you just.
and I don't have it in front of me, but the estimate of before we were using rain out insurance, I want to say it may have added another, it was a little over $10,000 when they did it again, but I can certainly go back and look at it again. 'Cause again, we're going to bring the fireworks, so we can continue this conversation in some senses, but.
Okay, let's get back on task here. So our motion before us is the July 3rd fireworks entertainment. Now, we've answered the question about, we don't want to bring the band back. The council, I think, is in
Yeah.
unison on that. So Do we have a motion ready to read?
It doesn't address those two items, though, and you brought it up. Do you want them addressed tonight?
You told us.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve Electric Avenue, the 80s MTV experience for the July 3rd fireworks concert for $7,500.
Have a motion and a second?
And that's without a $5,000, I think that was written into the contract.
Yeah, that's,
We'll go with something else, is what I'm hearing you say, find a local band or DJ, and we will make sure that that's what I'm saying, I'm gonna look at
In
those
the
two
event.
options. In the event
Yes.
it rains, and I'll make sure we get information out, because we do market who's gonna be there, so people aren't expecting that same act to show up if we reschedule.
So, okay, so that's for the reschedule, but at this point,
We're just,
you're voting on the entertainment for July 3rd.
Not prepaying for a
Right.
rain out day.
but no rain-out date payment.
Staff understands the sentiment of the council.
No insurance.
I would just
Either.
say, just my opinion, I'd really like us to go with a more local band from the beginning. I feel like people come for the fireworks, that you don't get a lot of the people that do come aren't even up there where the band is. They're out in the fields, or down the street, they're all over the place. And if you really want to go with hot bands, the best place probably to have them is at the Mill, because that's the only thing people come for, is what's on the stage. That's just my opinion. I'd rather have a more local band and spend less money. We spend a lot on the fireworks.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? 2, 3. All opposed? 3-1.
Mayor, any sentiment for a longer, more expensive fireworks show if we downgrade the cost of the entertainment next
Boy, I'm-
year?
Our show is
My
already
opinion, but if they
great.
match what they did last year, I don't know. My neck was already hurting.
So
Our show is
20
good
minutes
every
or
year.
so, is that?
It was 23, what was, 23 minutes?
Yes.
That's a long show.
$1,000 a minute.
Yeah,
And
that's a
it's
long
been
show.
Excellent.
So we're
every
happy
year.
with that?
I was.
Do we
Okay.
have music
help?
coordinated with the fireworks display?
Sir?
Do we have music coordination?
Yes, they
Okay.
do.
did.
That
I guess I'm too far away to hear it. I hear the booms.
Thank you.
Okay. Tab D, Economic Development. Janet?
Good evening. The first item I have is the 2019 Mill Amphitheater rental agreement. I know we've gone back and forth a couple of times. So the third revision is simply to update the personnel fees. So what we've come up with, we talked with David Mecklin. So the police department will still be issued a check from the person who's renting the mill, and the staff will clock in and out that day. However, the city will reimburse, or the vendor will reimburse the city for their time served, worked.
Time served. That's interesting.
Is this dollar amount for the staff the same as what we saw before? I thought it was $25 an hour. Am I wrong? Is this the same amount we talked about before for the staff fee?
I think we did up the amount for the police and the maintenance supervisor and technician. I believe that was on the last one, though.
It's higher than last year,
It's higher than last year.
but it's the
No, I
same
mean-
as what we presented last time.
Yeah.
Was it?
But
Okay.
it's higher than last year.
I got a question on this, on the red print here.
Yes, sir.
You say a large event requires 2 staff members, but it doesn't explain what a large event is.
Over 200 folks.
It doesn't say that. Okay.
Over 200 people require security, so that would,
Well, that's down on security, but
Yeah.
doesn't say anything
same
about-
thing for staff.
Okay, so there's the security, but the agreement is talking about other staff that has to be there, right? There has to be at least one. And if it's over 202, I'm still struggling a little bit with the jump in cost to rent. It was 300, and I'm not saying that we should never do that or include staff, but we've gone from a rental of the mill from $300 to automatically $440 percentage-wise, that's a big jump from 300 to 440. And if they need 200, if they need 2 staff, it's now 560. That's just a big leap. I'm struggling with that.
I agree with Councilmember McPherson. You know, I've said this from day one. That amphitheater was built for the community, and everything that goes on there is not put on by the city. And I just don't want us to price ourselves out of people wanting to have local concerts. We've had a lot of local concerts there. I haven't attended all of them, but we're going to me, that's pretty steep.
We haven't changed the price to rent the mill.
No, you haven't changed it, but you have changed the overall price.
Yes, the overall price, but not.
Out of their pocket, they're paying more money. So I understand the fee for renting the mill hasn't gone up, but in essence, you almost double the price that it would cost to use the mill, if we use it that way.
But
use that
the
terminology.
alternative to that, Mr. Mayor, is that to do it otherwise, the city's going to have to choose to subsidize the person who's renting the mill, because you're going to be paying those employees. They're city employees on city time. You'll be paying them. So to not charge what the cost of the employee is, if you choose not to do that, then you're going to be subsidizing the event. And that's a legitimate choice to make if you choose to.
But in the past, we haven't required them to pay for maintenance. That's the difference.
And therefore, you have been subsidizing the event.
No, well, I mean, unless it was changed after 2014, if they requested maintenance, they paid for it. We didn't pay for it.
That's true, but we are essentially making the decision that we are not going to let them pay the maintenance themselves, because when an event is being held, we, the city, tell the employees, show up on Saturday to service this event, and therefore they are acting as city employees, and we should be paying them. They're not independent contractors if we're telling them they've got to show up to work. So all I'm trying to point out is that you've got to choose one way or the other, which is to either reduce the cost, which means that the city will be bearing some of the cost for the event, or charge the price that it cost us to send the employee over there to work.
All right, well, I'm about to throw a monkey wrench in that idea. So, Vicki, I'm going to put you on the spot. Stand up for a minute. When we have USSSA tournaments at Al Bishop Softball Complex, and we have maintenance staff there taking care of those fields, who pays that?
Well, that's all in their cost on the rental.
Who pays the employee?
The city pays the employee.
County.
We did not look across the entire city. I'll certainly say that to see what the impact of, at this moment, what they were doing. But if the way he has presented it to the city manager, as in that's the way we need to look at it going forward, then we need to take that into consideration as well.
That was a very political way of saying, yeah, you're right, Mayor. So we charge, unless it's changed, $300 per field. Is that still the rate?
They haven't changed. let me just
Where,
say.
who receives the $300?
It comes to the city.
It comes to the city, and then the city pays the employee.
That is correct.
Well, that's what David is saying.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
No.
Well, is it not, David?
No.
It is, I mean, except in this contract, we're charging the $300 plus making them pay for the
Right.
staff
Well, the
time.
difference is you broke it out in this contract. She's saying that it's part of that package price already, right?
Yes, to a certain extent. So if they've gone and they've prepped the fields in advance, is there somebody there the entire time as they're going through and doing cleanup versus, which I'll make the distinction, when someone comes, for example, and says, hey, Taste of Villa Rica, or someone that says, hey, we want to do an event at the mill, and they are deliberately asking, hey, we're not available, we need help with setup. And sometimes they can't articulate all the things that they need on the front end, but they are asking the city to participate, if you will, in their event by asking staff to be there, asking staff to do the full setup. Those were the calls that we certainly used to get when those types of, whether it's the art festival that comes in April, I can't think of the name, Taste of Villa Rica, there would be a couple of them. They would come, they would ask for that grant that we would make available, and then they would certainly basically ask staff to do everything from there. So,
Councilmember McDougal, here's my point. In the past, last year, we charged how much to rent the amphitheater?
300.
How much?
300.
$300. This year, you're gonna charge how much, including the maintenance fee?
I think the difference is you're
No, let me-
requiring the maintenance here. Is that the
Let me make my
difference?
point, though. This year, it's gonna be 400 and whatever, right? Okay, last year, you charged $300.
440.
Vicky, last year, you charged $300 to rent a ball field, right? Are you going up from $300 this year?
that's something that we probably need to look at in light of what the recommendation.
Yes or no?
Until such time that they change, yes, but we probably need.
So
to-
you're also gonna go up that same amount on every ball field for a maintenance person to work?
If it requires maintenance in the time that they're there, yes.
Okay.
We would have to do that.
Am I right that the difference is, though, that we didn't require these personnel before, and now we are? Is that what's happening here?
Well, if you're a private event and you're needing our tables and our chairs and cleanup and all that, that yes, our maintenance staff has to be there because they're not allowed to touch anything of ours except our staff is allowed.
But last year,
Aren't they charged for that?
Did
Aren't they
we do
charged
that
for
last
tables
year?
and chairs and?
But they can't take them, break them up and they can't set it up and tear it down.
how were we handling that last year when the rental fee was $300? The tables and chairs or anything else that,
So the actual person that leased the mill was issuing them a check. We weren't paying for it. So the private,
so they're still paying it. The difference is whether or not they're paying it to the city or paying it individually.
Right,
So it was costing them the same thing, is what you're saying.
almost,
Almost,
except we're
yes.
raising the rate of the employee a little bit to cover payroll taxes and all that.
Okay. I didn't know that part.
I don't think I understand that.
I had concerns about a third party paying city employees to do the job that they regularly do every day anyway, now being required to do it, and I was concerned about workman's comp issues, I was concerned about wage and hour issues, and I think that's what David is addressing. That probably needed to be looked at, and that's why we've now moved to them writing a check to the city as opposed to writing the check individually to those.
the workman's comp specifically is something that David and Tom and myself had to talk about and discuss because that is quite, that rate is quite high if there was an incident, yes.
Okay.
So is there a distinction between events where they require all this help and setup and ones that don't? I don't,
The Taste of Villa Rica is a massive event. They always require help. Arts Coalition, big event, they always require help.
but isn't that all charged in that grant thing? I mean,
Well,
isn't it
part of the
broken
money they
down?
use for the grant, yes, help to pay for that staff, correct.
Okay, so what if a church has a service over here and people bring their own chairs? And
We
they
don't
have-
require staff for that.
Would they require staff?
No.
That's my question, stuff like that. So there's
So
a,
if they don't
so there's a
need this,
distinction.
then they don't have to pay for it.
So then-
Absolutely not.
Is
So
that
then
the
I'm
way-
totally confused.
That's not how I
because
understood it, but
This made
is
it
that how
look
it is?
like we required them to have an employee.
No,
Sorry.
we don't require that. We put that in there simply because if it's a private event, yes. If they're gonna have a big event, yes. They have,
Some of those are private events, though. I think there's a misunderstanding from the beginning. This goes back to last month. There's a real misunderstanding on the way this is supposed to play out. Yeah.
Is that language in there that we don't charge certain people for, if they don't require people, we don't charge them? I thought it was based on the number of people that they
I
estimated.
misunderstood.
It is. So when we have a meeting with the Taste of Villa Rica staff, they come in, and we know that's a large event. They're gonna need help. They rent our tents, they rent our chairs, they rent our tables. So automatically, they know that's gonna be a 2-person to 3-person event. We talk about the rate, we talk about how much they're gonna pay, we talk about VRPD and how much that staff will require based upon the number,
Well, I'm
So
not,
they know that they don't have to
Well, let
pay
me
it.
ask
We
you,
always
that's
tell
not the
them you
one I'm-
don't have to pay it.
the one I'm talking about is the one that Councilman McPherson is talking about, the group that comes in and says, we don't know how many people we're gonna have, and we're gonna set up our own chairs,
Yeah.
And that's fine.
and you're not
We're
gonna
not gonna charge
charge.
them. No.
So,
How
That
often does that
wasn't clear.
happen?
Yeah, I didn't understand that at
So
all.
it doesn't.
Very rarely
So
do
it
we ever
doesn't-
not get required to use staff, specifically the Tri-Music Festival. That's a large event.
big event.
That's an alcohol event. We have VRPD there regardless if it's alcohol involved. And then, of course, staff-wise, would set up and tear down because they use our tents, again, tables, chairs, et
Okay,
cetera.
they do, but let me just, so if Taste of Villa Rica, we know that's a large event. If they were to say to you, they're not going to, but if they were to say, we don't need your help with the chairs, we've got our own tents, none of this applies to them.
Correct.
Okay,
So you can use the amphitheater as long as they don't.
Basically, the charge would be at that time, the $300, $200 refundable deposit they get back after the event is complete.
Okay,
That's a
but when they
clarification.
involve you is when this other stuff
Okay.
comes into play.
Correct.
Okay.
okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we accept the updated Mill Amphitheater rental agreement for 2019.
Second.
Have a motion second. In way of discussion, if this is going to be handled at the mill, I think it should be done across the board. If we're charging $300 right now for a ball field, and I know the ball field takes folks to maintain it, and the restrooms need to be maintained, and they can't use our equipment, it's the same exact scenario. All I'm saying is, if we're doing it for the mill, then we should do it for everybody.
I think we're attacking the mill at this
So-
moment, yeah. This is just for the mill right
Okay,
now.
That's-
We just
that's
need to
my
look and
discussion.
See what the market rate is for the ball field.
So we're just doing the mill at the moment, that's what this motion's about.
Okay.
Yeah,
Have a
we'll-
motion and
we'll look at
second. Any further discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
The second item I have is the headlining band for the 2019 West Georgia Jazz Festival, which will be held Saturday, April 27th, 2019. Mayor, I think the last few years, it wasn't so much about the price of the band, but you asked us to be competitive with our surrounding counties as far as entertainment. That's what we're trying to do here. So we reached out to Ken Ford, who is a nationally known jazz musician. Luckily for us, he does live in Atlanta. He has asked for $10,000 to perform for the Jazz Festival as the headlining act. That's my proposal, that in a continued effort to bring more entertainment, bigger entertainment, and to be competitive, we are recommending to Ken Ford to headline the 2019 West Georgia Jazz Festival.
If I could ask for two things that I think will be helpful to us on this and any of the other shows. If we could get some sort of report on how much was sponsored, maybe last year, because 10,000 sounds like a whole lot unless you find out that $8,000 of it is sponsored by private businesses and entities and corporations here in Villa Rica. To me, it makes a big difference whether it's taxpayer money that's doing this or if we have sponsors. If there's a way we could find out how last year played out with the different groups, how much of it came out of the taxpayers and how much of it was covered by sponsorship.
I think off the top of my head, we did have our year-end report. I can confirm this at the next meeting, but I believe we had close to $40,000 in sponsorships last year.
Out of cost of, and when I say cost, I don't want to know just the cost of the band because it's much more complicated than that. Some of them have riders where they require that you provide this and that and staff and, 15 meals and, other things that they want to have. And that all plays into the cost. So if we could include that. And I spoke with one of the other council members, and one other thing we thought that might be helpful is the whole reason for having these things downtown, obviously quality of life, but we want to help our businesses. The whole reason for Main Street's existence is to help downtown Main Street businesses. And if there's a way we could communicate with those businesses via email afterwards to say, hey, give us some feedback. Did you get a lot more people in your restaurant or whatever? Are we helping those businesses with the events we're having? Does that?
Yeah, that's
some sort of.
We discussed that, and what I would say is maybe as a recommendation, you all could come up with some type of a survey that you might hand out to the local businesses in the downtown area so we can find out what indirect impact what we're doing over here has, whether it's positive or negative. And I appreciate those numbers of the sponsorships versus how much the taxpayers putting into into these events. Obviously, this is about quality of life, and to some extent, we're going to take the lead on bringing some of these events, but we want to make sure that the taxpayer is not footing the whole bill, and that we're getting some quality of life benefit back for that.
I will make a comment, Councilman McDougal. We did get verbal feedback from all of the restaurants last year, not in writing, but verbal. That's the most money they've ever made, specifically Mother's Finest.
How much do we pay for departure?
$4,000, but they played New Year's Eve. They're typically $2,000.
How much do we pay for Mother's Finest?
$10,000.
How many people were at the Jazz Festival last year?
I don't know, offhand, maybe 1,500, 1,000.
How many people were at the fireworks display? They could hear the concert.
Oh, they could hear the concert?
We've never had that conversation. You
I
ever
haven't
done
counted
that?
it.
I
I'd probably
would say-
say maybe a quarter to a third of that 15,000 were probably up on the field.
You're saying 5,000 people? I'm saying there's a lot more than 5,000 people.
On the field?
They could hear the concert.
It's
My point was, not to get into, my point was, we're paying $7,500 for a band for the July 3rd fireworks, and we're paying $10,000 for a band for 1,400 people last year. I mean, that, personally, it's not a numbers game necessarily, and I don't mean to beat up on you, but that's a lot of money. I
Didn't
mean,
we
that's,
say that the city's not paying it, we're getting contributions to help pay for this thing?
well, not till after the fact. We're paying it up front, and then we're hoping we get it back after the fact.
Well, she said she would come back to us with some numbers, but I mean, I have to agree. And when I saw this number for this jazz festival, I personally didn't even attend the jazz festival last year, so I would have to rely on you for the numbers. But were there a lot of people? I mean,
It's building every year. It has grown bigger and bigger, and the goal is to get it to a point where we're at a 3,000 number. Let's keep in mind that the mill only holds 2,500 people. The V-Plex holds a lot more than that. If I could get that out to the V-Plex, I could sell that V-Plex out. I mean, I'm competitive, so I'm going to try to get the best talent we can get. Ken Ford is very popular. He gets a lot more than that, quite frankly. I negotiated 3 months to get this rate. So I feel like if we're going to be competitive and we want to bring more people downtown to assist the local businesses, this is the way to help that. Example is Mother Finest. That's the most people we'd ever had at the mill, and the businesses reap the benefit of that, and that's what we want.
okay, I would like to see that kind of feedback so that we can understand the indirect benefit. And I would like to get the numbers for the sponsorships from last year and see as of, at the next meeting. It's hard to, Departure was a big band. They brought a lot of people out. We had them for New Year's. We had them out at the fireworks. It was a huge band. I don't know this fella or anything about him, so I have ignorance there. I'm going to leave this up to you. But I want to see that this has a real positive impact on our downtown businesses and on the community.
Waiting for a motion. Hearing no motion, then we'll move on. Somebody better make a motion. I'm about to move on to item
I
3.
make the motion that we approve the contract agreement necessary to engage Ken Ford to headline 2019 West Georgia Jazz Festival.
In the amount of $10,000. Do I hear a second?
I'm going to do it. Yes, second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? That's 2. All opposed?
You had 3.
Yeah, there was
I think.
3.
Oh, did you raise your hand? Well, keep it up so I can see it. All right.
If I do too, I'd make it.
So we have 3 for, 1 against. Votes 3-1.
The next item is the headlining band for the 2019 Go Rush Festival. We have selected for September 7th, 2019, headlining band is Brickyard Road. They are the Leonard Skinner tribute band. Their contract is $3,550.
That's what I'm talking about.
Am I missing something? How many people do we have at Gold Rush?
That is that not, next to the fireworks, is that not the biggest event that we do?
And the band's $38.50.
And I will
35.
remind you,
$35.50.
I will remind you that they also sing Sweet Home Alabama.
Thank you.
That's worth an extra 1,000 right there.
Do they sing Georgia, though?
No.
If they don't sing Georgia, I might vote no.
We can work on that.
You know, there's a song called Georgia. Georgia.
Need a motion?
You don't want to tell us anything about them?
They sing
They're
Sweet Home Alabama.
Leonard Skinner Tribute Band.
All right,
sing
I'll
all
make a
their
motion
hits.
that we approve the contract agreement necessary to engage Brickyard Road Leonard Skinner Tribute Band to headline 2019 Gold Rush Festival.
Second.
In the amount of?
It's not on, well,
$3,500.
$3,550.
It's just above there, yeah.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Just one will be fine. You can't vote twice. Thank you, ma'am. Tab E, item number 1, Pete.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item is a request to replace the variable frequency drive for the number 2 booster pump at the Highway 61 booster pump station. This is a budgeted item. And this booster pump station has 2 booster pumps in it. And they operate as a lead and a lag to even out the wear time on them. But the number 2 pump is down and we need to replace the drive unit for it. Staff's recommending to replace the existing Allen Bradley drive unit that failed with a Danfoss unit. And we're recommending that Go Forth Williamson do the installation of this drive unit. And the amount is not to exceed $11,025.
I make a motion to approve the purchase and installation of the Danfoss variable frequency drive for the number 2 booster pump to Go Forth Williamson, Inc. at a cost not to exceed $11,025. Why do I always get the
Second.
long motions?
Second that.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Item number 2. Seeing no one representing item 2, we'll move on to item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Evening.
Real quick, just to touch on the windmill at Pine Mountain. We had some guys out there on Friday to grease the bearings, but the bearings were non-existent. So they're on order and they'll be here probably by the end of the week and we'll get that fixed. So it should have quietened down just a little bit, but.
Thank you,
we're
Nick.
working on it.
Thank you, sir.
All right. First item, it's a budgeted item. Last year when one of the inmate crews was under me, we had 3 zero turns that were operating, cutting the beautification, the gateway, and a few other things. And there's about 4 or 5 incidents where the mowers were actually slinging rocks and debris, and they're cutting in between, a highway. So to alleviate that problem, they have a rear discharge mower available now, and so that was the plan, to actually have that mower cutting the medians and discharging from behind instead of shooting it out the sides. And I know they make mulch plates and things like that, but this one had really good reviews, and I'd like to see it.
It's a budgeted item, right?
It is a budgeted item.
Good. I'll make a motion that we purchase the Exmart 60 rear discharge lawnmower from Douglasville Ace Hardware in the amount of $9,233.19 for ground maintenance inmate detail department.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous.
The second item is also a budgeted item. It's a 2019 Ford Escape for our CID unit. The only issue with this one is it's $496 more than we actually budgeted. So I would like to request the council approve us move $496 from the general funds account to aid in this purchase. Don Rich was the lowest bidder at $19,496. And this will actually replace a vehicle that had higher mileage and some maintenance issues that we've moved over to a spare vehicle that will be given to employees that bring their vehicle in for work, and we may need to keep it for a couple days. Still allows them to get around the city and do their jobs. So this is a replacement vehicle.
So this department couldn't find $496 in their budget somewhere else, huh?
Drug seizure?
I'm not sure.
There won't
But we did find it in the general fund account.
Well, that's not where you're supposed to be looking.
Hey, you got all
If
these
we allow that,
items
you'll
over
be
here.
up here.
You're supposed to
Big
search for your
list.
Department heads everywhere making notes.
Tom covered his face. Don't say that again.
Where's the chief at? Oh, he's got Captain Shaddix back there. He made that note. I saw him. So,
Wouldn't mind if it could be found in drug seizure money or something like that.
Yeah, did you look anywhere else, Nick? Or did you just look in the general fund?
Do we need to look at the budget for you?
I asked for assistance.
Who are we gonna blame it on?
Selling stuff on gov.deals.
We're a team as the city employees, and so I'll take the blame for that.
He's trying to redeem himself.
I don't even remember what it says. Scroll up. Can you go back up to where the accounts are shown?
Oh, okay.
Oh. We're talking about
Let's see what they're looking at.
I promise you, I'll try to save the city $500.
What did we put?
And not sublet some type of work that we might have.
500?
Scott.
Okay, is your department over or under? You're not a department manager, though. What? Over or under on the budget?
Yeah, we're still early in the year though, so I mean, everybody's under right now.
Oh, good. See, he's got it.
It isn't that big of.
You don't need it from us.
In all my years of doing this, I've never heard somebody get, I promise you, I'll save you $500. That almost sounds like a car salesman type of thing.
I believe you.
Hey, we give them all this money and they want $496 more. You believe that?
Okay. I thought this one, so in the Douglas County SPOS, the money we had gotten already so far this year is higher than what we budgeted. So I think we were gonna take this difference from the excess Douglas County SPOS that we have received, so.
There you go, Sarah. You made
Okay,
your
well,
day.
that,
There you go.
that'll work.
She saved yourself.
You made a
You
mistake.
did. Thank you, Miss Sarah.
It's a regular occurrence.
All right, I'll make a motion that the city permit the purchase of the 2019 Ford Escape in the amount of $19,496. I would also like to propose that the city permit the transfer of, no.
No, forget that
That's
part.
where I'm gonna stop.
Yeah. So she says she can find it.
Douglas County
Douglas
SPOS.
County SPOS.
That's the motion.
Okay, the motion is second. Do y'all understand the motion, other council members?
Truncated motion.
We're gonna buy this vehicle for $14,000.
Do you understand the motion, Madam Clerk? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous. You did it, Nick. I don't know how.
I got one more that's not budgeted.
Oh, no.
So,
Is that because they keep running into us?
yes, we were actually in a council meeting on the night this happened. It was vehicle number 8083. I don't know if y'all remember the chief and everybody running out. It was in front of McDonald's. One of our interceptors got hit. So we've done some wheeling and dealing with our government surplus as well that you guys approved me to sell. And we made $14,272 from it. The insurance proceeds from that accident is in the amount of $10,739. And the $4,722 that we're lacking is gonna come from Douglas County SPOS. This is just to replace instead of buying another used vehicle that may have 100,000 miles, we decided to ask you guys if we can just purchase a new vehicle. We did find Ingot Silver Ford Police Interceptor Explorer. It's in Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Wow.
And you found the money to pay for it, too.
Yes, sir.
You did, and when we authorized you to buy those Explorers before, you said there were only 4 remaining,
They
and
were
you
pretty
somehow
awesome.
found another one.
We had to
In
go out of
Spartanburg,
state.
South Carolina. So we'll make a day trip.
I'm just big.
I'm
I'll make a
I'll
motion to
make the mo-
authorize,
Go ahead.
To authorize the purchase of a 2018 Ford Explorer Interceptor from Vic Bailey Ford, Lincoln, in the amount of $29,733.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Captain Sidis is standing up back there in case he needs, so Nick, you were
Need
safe.
some protection.
Yeah. All in favor? Okay, unanimous.
Thank you, guys.
I don't know how you did it, Nick, but you did it. Tab F, Jim?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First item, I believe, is the security camera system update. This will be phase one. This will be to implement security system cameras for City Hall, customer service area, and Gold Dust. The reason we went with that as the first phase is because, well, they're on the same VLAN, which I won't go into all of that. But it makes it a lot easier, and we have two facilities there that have absolutely no coverage, no camera system whatsoever, and that would be customer service, where we have a lot of traffic, and we have City Hall, where also we have a lot of traffic, and we have no coverage whatsoever.
How many cameras we talking about here, Jim?
I believe it's 21 to cover both those areas right there, and I forget the total number at Gold Dust, but almost all those cameras are gonna have to be replaced, plus adding the additional ones over at Gold Dust as well.
Can the police department, can y'all pull up those cameras remote?
They will now.
You will be able to, that's great.
If we approve this tonight, they'll be able to pull up anything. So reception will be able to pull it up, they'll be able to pull it up while they're out there, and also go back and view old video as well.
Great.
So Relico, that's the company that's gonna handle,
Yes, sir, that's who we switched over to do all of our security systems in the process of, and they're gonna be the ones going forward that we're gonna utilize for our camera systems as well.
And are the reason, I'm sorry, Gold Dust, the reason so many of the cameras will need to be replaced is that,
They were out of date when they were put in.
okay, because I thought maybe they didn't work together, kind of like Apple and Microsoft.
They're old analog, we're gonna put
Okay.
them in with IP.
the antiquated.
Correct.
Don't hold back, Jim,
Quality.
just say what you
Yeah.
think, buddy. Come on.
There's really no way to sugarcoat it, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Well, I know the quality matters, because you ever seen these things where they have the video and you can't tell who the person is, so what's the good of the
I
video?
will say for analog, they're fairly good quality though.
Okay.
to be
Okay,
analog.
question is, can each police car pull up any of these cameras?
Each police car?
Yeah,
They
can you
should be
pull them
able
up
to.
from the police car?
Should be
Okay.
able to.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Once we load the IP address and those cars, yeah, they'll be able to.
All right, 'cause that's happening elsewhere in Atlanta and wherever.
Mm-hmm.
All the police
I
can
seen
pull
that
up.
on RoboCop. It's pretty good. I didn't know that. Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll make a motion that we utilize the Relco for phase one for the security camera system upgrade for the amount not to exceed $41,900.
Have a motion and a second.
Who was the second?
Councilmember Marchman. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
And the next item is, I had to make an emergency licensing purchase for our cows. Getting the actual licensing for exchange back up and running was actually only about 600, but we had no cows that we could actually use to go to the new version of exchange.
What is he saying?
No?
It sounds like
Tell them the
cows. That's why I
name
know
of
it's
it.
not
You're
cows.
using an
Client
abbreviation.
access licenses.
Yes, client access
Well,
license.
don't-
Cows.
All I
And
heard
that's-
was
and-
cows.
And that's where the money comes in. You could actually license exchange, and as long as Microsoft doesn't audit you, you could run forever. But if they do audit you, it's 50,000 per offense. So 50,000 times, I think 176 mailboxes is where we're at. That's going to be very expensive.
You
So-
did that on purpose, didn't you? Really?
No, it's, when you start using the lingo of, you lose some of us. and
This
you
is
definitely
email.
lose.
Yeah, this is email.
I make the motion to ratify the purchase of Microsoft 2019 license with CALS for the sum of $14,580.84.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous?
I did abbreviate, to keep the motion short. I was told to keep the motion.
That's on point right there.
Yep.
Real quick, Jim, where are the batteries for these?
Mine was actually on when I opened the case, so that's probably why they were run down.
They're dead.
They're both dead.
Just FYI. Yeah.
I put mine in the case for you.
Those need to be checked before we start our meetings, yeah.
Where they kept?
I don't know, but,
Keep them in here?
somebody ought to be checking them.
You keep them?
No, I don't keep
Where
them.
they kept?
No,
We don't keep.
no, no, no.
All right.
You're
so
on,
we're-
Sarah.
Okay,
Talk to us about cows and horses and,
and move on. This is credit cards. So at our December meeting, I brought y'all kind of a summary of how much the city is absorbing in credit card fees, which was a lot. 48,000 up to 70,000 in 2017. And we're seeing an increase, for instance, in community development now that building permit money, people are paying that with credit cards. And, you know, a lot of these credit cards that have miles and other rewards on them, the city's paying for those through these fees. Again, the city's absorbing that. It looks like from October 1st of 2018 through January of 2019, so just the first few months in our fiscal year currently, we've already absorbed almost $22,000 in these credit card fees. So we do have a vendor right now at the court or police department that is called Government Window. And like I said, they already are a vendor here. I really don't interact with them all that much because they charge the customer directly. So rung up, the staff lets the customer know that you owe this much, but there's going to be this fee also processed with this. So it's not that it passes through us in any way. You know, we're not having to take the money from the customer and then pay it back to the credit card company or vice versa. The transaction is solely between the customer and Government Window. So we would still have the same capabilities of the customer paying online. When they walk up to the window, we would still take the payment there. They do have apps, just like our current credit card processor, who's also our online payment processor. Same sort of setup. It just now that the fee would go directly to the customer. They proposed to us 3% fee. This would be if we only accept Visa, MasterCard, and Discover, which is all we take now. If we wanted to accept American Express, they would raise our fee to 3.5 for all transactions. So we would recommend just doing the 3% fee for Visa, MasterCard, and Discover. The police department does take American Express. So on the rare case, and it does happen, like I said, rare, we have a customer come in and maybe they've been cut off. I need to get turned back on. I only have American Express. Well, we've sent them over to the police department. We get the money exchanged that way. But an option in the city, but it would keep the fee down overall for everyone.
Okay, some companies will charge a fee if you use the credit card because credit card companies charge fees, but they won't charge you a fee if they draft the money directly out of your bank account. Is that the way this company works or not?
They said they have I think it was a flat fee, maybe $5 if you chose to do like an e-check, which I think is kind of the equivalent. As far as an ACH process, some utility companies have that. We do not have that right now. It's something we could look into. I've seen it initiated from, I know in another city I worked in, we initiated it from our actual accounting software to the bank, but I think that might be a separate process.
But you're talking about for a $40 water bill, which is what this is. This is water bills, right?
Correct.
3%, $1.20, something like that.
Right. It's the utilities, but also community development. So where people are coming in and paying a big permit, they're going to pay 3% on that permit fee as well. So.
And
Which means they're gonna write us a check.
Recreation department too, right? I mean, this is
Which is
across
what
the
we
board,
want.
isn't it?
I'm not addressing recreation right now.
Okay.
They use for different things. If they'll use a Square, which is the thing you plug into your phone, they can swipe that. And then both recreation and Pine Mountain historically have had a different credit card processor, TSYS.
Okay, so this does not include them.
I'm not addressing them yet.
Okay. I was actually for this, and we're a family that actually benefits racking up Disney points or whatever we can get. But when you say the city's absorbing it, what we're saying is it's being absorbed with taxpayer dollars. And I just feel like if you want the convenience of using the credit card, it's not best for the tax dollars to have to absorb all that. It's better for us to pay that
But-
convenience fee ourselves.
Just understand clearly, this new government window customer service, you can still set up automatic payment on it, just like you did on Express.
Correct.
Because Express, you could set it up, and every month it would take it out.
Yes.
charged against the card.
Correct.
I realize you're using this or proposing this vendor. The court already uses this, but did you bid this out at all?
We did not.
I wonder if we might do ourselves a favor by bidding this out. These seem kind of high. I own a business as well, and there are benefits to accepting credit cards that are more beneficial and more cost-effective than accepting checks. So I don't think it's wholly a win-win situation. I know, for instance, if you use Georgia Power, they have a flat fee of $2.25 up to a $600 payment. I just wonder if you might look at other vendors like Bill Matrix or something. I have no problem with this. I said before, I had no problem with utilities paying this and permits. So, but I just wonder if we might have a better deal by bidding it out, or at least looking at other vendors.
Okay.
But I would support this if this is what the council wants to do tonight.
Should we rush? Do we need?
Do you have a reason to do this now?
If we could investigate a
Saves
little
us
bit more?
money. I
Any
mean,
problem?
we can go back and bid it because we've got other parts of the operation that aren't even in this.
If we were to bid it, would y'all want to look at adding the other departments that aren't using this current system? I think y'all had kind of questioned whether we would charge recreation.
Yeah, I think if we've got the time, there's not a time, yeah, I'd like to see it done across the board. That's my opinion.
As far as passing on the fee as well?
I don't mind taking a look at that, but I think that is possibly a separate discussion. One of the issues we have at Pine Mountain is that we need to increase the number of people visiting. So it may be that we need to look at raising some of the fees over there as opposed to tacking on an extra charge, but that's really not the discussion here. If you don't need this tonight, I would propose tabling this until our next meeting. And if that would give you time to look at some other vendors, I would like to do that. That'd be my motion.
We might have to look at Pine Mountain a little differently.
Go ahead, we have a motion, do I have a second?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
I would
I'll
like to
second.
ask that we look at all the, not that we're gonna do it, but I would like to look at it.
Okay.
So we have a motion, a second, any further discussion? Not all in favor?
Whoa. What's the motion?
I
The
second.
motion is to table.
Table to
Until the next meeting.
We had about 3
I
seconds.
don't, it's not, we can't table to the next meeting.
Well, okay, how long is it gonna take?
Because the agenda's due Thursday and.
Till
you
the-
want her to bid.
Well, she would need more time, so what
So
is
it
the
may
meeting
be
after
It
that?
may be the second meeting in,
First meeting in March.
That's
second
fine.
meeting in March.
You don't
If you're
have
gonna
to
do a
rush.
month bid, and it could be the first meeting in April.
Okay, I'll amend the motion to table this to the second meeting in March.
Second.
Have a motion, a second? All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Tab H, Mr. Barber.
Okay. So I've sent you a couple of emails summarizing what's going on out at Pine Mountain. And in a couple of those, I have talked about the old home site. So if you're familiar with the facility, when you're in the center of the lot, with your back to the road, museums to your right, the home site sitting sort of up on the first terrace in the, sort of in the center of the property. And there's a retaining wall in the front of the site that is failing, and as it fails, the front yard in front of the site is shifting toward the parking lot downhill, and now the front porch of the structure is beginning to separate from the rest of the structure. In addition, there's a rock stairway on either side of the to that plateau where the home site sits that is very irregular. So in today's terms, it's not just not ADA compliant, it's difficult. And at night, you know, it's very difficult to navigate. We also have a garage there that sits to one side, and it's in the hill, so the top level of the garage is about at ground level, so people tend to stand on it. And it's not, the structure's not well supported inside for a lot of weight on that roof, and there are no doors. So what we've gotten prices on includes efforts to renovate and safe and strengthen and secure and whatever, all those things. And you've got that in the estimate. So we're talking about, instead of taking those two stairways apart and relaying them, we felt like that would take a lot away from what that site represents. It wouldn't be the site anymore that it is today. So we'd instead pour a new stairway from the parking lot up to the site. We would put rustic wood doors on the garage so that we could have it double as a and support it inside, put guardrails on the top of the garage so that it could still be used the way it's being used, but be safe. We are going to have to take apart the retaining wall and dig back into the hill, pour a footing, put in a concrete wall to act as a retaining walls and anchor that into the hill, and then rebuild the retaining wall. So that is going to diminish the look, but at the same time, it's going to keep the whole thing from winding up in the parking lot one year, right? Or worse. And then we're going to have to do some things to secure the actual structure, the chimney and the front porch arch, to secure that back into the hill. So we're going to use some cabling and some other things. So that's what we're proposing. It's a bunch of money. This is going to take a big chunk of the 19 product development money that we get from Hotel Motel. All right? I have already authorized Danny, this is Danny Leor, if you're not familiar with D.L. Masonry, so he's done work for us for years. He's already been given the green light to work on the garage as a standalone project. So in addition to this, there's $6,150 that's already in play. So this is almost a $50,000 upgrade to the facility. My statement to you would be, if we don't do this, rope this thing off and not let people own it. It's that concerning, because if the fireplace or the porch falls, it's very dangerous. And if the garage collapses with a load of people on the roof, same deal. People try to navigate those steps and stumble, same deal, up or down. So I think it's time. This is, it's getting to the point where we won't be able to just mend it. We'll have to do something serious if it starts falling apart. So that's my recommendation.
This almost seems like an emergency expense, the way you described it earlier and the way you described it now. It's not an emergency that's that has occurred, but it is certainly on the verge of an emergency. And that being somewhat of an exception, I guess you don't have any additional bids for this work.
No.
I would typically be asking for additional bids, but this is a guy we've used for a number of projects. He's done a number of projects recently. Part of the Gold Museum is that we either have to be in it to make sure that it continues to be safe, or we need to get out of that business. And I agree with you when you say that we might have to rope it off if we don't do this kind of work. So that being the case, I do want to say that I do like to get at least 3 bids, but I understand in this case that we don't, and I can be okay with it this time. I'm ready to make a motion if nobody has any comments.
I do want to make a statement. I can do this if we get a motion in a second, or I can do it now. And I was going to bring it up earlier, but the moment wasn't right.
Where did he say the?
Hotel Motel.
The hotel motel tax, there's a certain amount that you can use. it's designated for product development. That's where you can actually use it
I
on
was coming out of that.
It can,
buildings and those sort of things, right?
All right, so I guess it would be appropriate probably to handle this one separate since we got a price from not to exceed from Danny. Okay. We have a motion. Did I hear a second?
Well,
didn't
let me
make a
read
motion
it.
yet.
I move that we authorize DL Masonry to make improvements to the Stockmar Park home site in an amount not to exceed $43,500.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Favor? Okay. If council will indulge me, since we're talking about this, I went to the Pine Mountain Gold Museum this morning and visited, walked around, talked to staff. And if you haven't been by the museum lately, I encourage you. I know Ken Denny went by there today. Lots going on, a lot of good things. Councilman McDougal also was there today. I'm not sure if any of the rest of you made it.
Today, I'll get by there this week.
But what I saw was that the staff and the volunteers that are working in the museum are working diligently to try to get that built. But what I also help. And so I've talked to a number of you today and also spoke to Tom. And I would ask that you consider, council, that you consider authorizing the city manager to get an estimate from DL Masonry to also help out to finish that museum on the inside so that we can get it back open to the public.
And I was out there today. Are you finished? Okay, I thought you were. And they're making a lot of progress out there, but I think they do need a lot of help, and I am going to support a motion that would.
10 grand,
You think so?
not to exceed.
Okay. Well, I would be prepared to make that motion that the city manager engage a contractor to assist with the finishing of the interior of that gold mine museum, out not to exceed $10,000.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Hold on.
Discussion.
And we're gonna give Nick the opportunity to save us at least $500.
That's right. Where is Nick at?
Now you can,
He's still here.
he got out of here.
Okay. Have a motion and a
Somebody
second.
send him a text.
Thank you all. Okay, David, I believe we do have executive session.
Yes. We need a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing future acquisition or disposition of real estate.
I'll make that motion.
Yep. To go in executive session for the purposes outlined. All in favor? Stick around, we'll be back.
I wouldn't stick around. It's been here. Thank you for coming. Tell the kids thanks.